Hunter x Hunter Chapter 402 was absolutely jam-packed with information and reveals, but let's talk about something that was kind of happening behind the scenes in 402, and that is the off-panel assassination attempt. But spoilers beware. So in Chapter 402, we are privy to this scene with Balsamilco where he is prepping this drug that is going to be used for an assassination attempt, specifically against Ninth Prince Halkenburg, whom they view as the greatest threat to Prince Benjamin right now. And just because this scene was slightly confusing in what was happening here, what he was doing was testing this dispersal device that's located within his shoe. So he tested it out before loading the drug in, and then he prepares and loads the drug. So once he presses this button, a stream will shoot out the side of his shoe in order to infect an area with that drug. So we see him prep this, but then we don't see anything else come of this. Now, even though we didn't see it on panel, something definitely went down this chapter because we see the characters react to another rumbling of Nin aura, similar to the ones that we've seen before whenever Prince Halkenburg uses his ability. And specifically, at the end of chapter 402, we have Melody talking about how the only other prince on tier 2 is Hulkenberg, and the rumbling earlier occurred directly above us. So it was either his ability or his Nin Beast ability that was the cause. So if you recall, Prince Halkenburg is indeed on tier 2 right now, the same tier as the Justice Bureau, because he was arrested and detained under suspicions of premeditated murder. And those charges were lobbied against him thanks to Balsamilco and Benjamin's men, because again, they view him as his greatest threat right now. And we literally saw Balsamilco prepping this drug in order to attack Hulkenberg. So perhaps Balsamilco is taking his chance with Prince Halkenburg on tier 2 instead of his normal, the safety of his own room on tier 1, and says, hey, now's my chance, let's go for it. We don't know that that's what happened, but the pieces do line up rather nicely. And also just because I saw some people were confused about this, so Melody and them are on tier 2 as well as Hulkenberg, but Melody says the rumbling happened above us. That doesn't mean the rumbling happened on tier 1, it just means it happened directly above them on tier 2, because this ship is huge. Each of these tiers has many different floors. So Melody literally meant that it happened right above us, meaning the floor above us on tier 2, not tier 1. Now, while we don't know for sure that Balsamilco went through with this attempted attack on Hulkenberg, we do know for sure that Hulkenberg went through something, because we find out at the end of the chapter that he had collapsed, and that is the exact same thing that happens in relation to his ability. When Prince Halkenburg uses his arrow that cannot be defended against, I remind you, it takes the soul of one of his followers and inserts it into whoever was hit by the arrow, and the follower whose soul got transferred just falls unconscious. So perhaps Halkenburg used his arrow and transferred into his attacker, which again might be Balsamilco. And this just opens the door for so many crazy possibilities, right? And again, we don't know for sure what happened here. It might not have been Balsamilco that set off this chain of events. But if it was, and Hulkenberg did soul transfer into him, Prince Halkenburg is now Prince Benjamin's right-hand man. Think about the access he could get and the potential devastation he could do by being in this body. Like, that would be insane. And let's not even think about the possibility that what if it was Balsamilco and he did successfully get off his biological attack? Like, what if Hulkenberg's current body is just going to be toast? What if Prince Halkenburg for the rest of the series had to remain in Balsamilco's body? I don't think that's going to be what happens, but it's cool that that's a possibility that's on the table right now. Now, what's also really interesting is that we, the reader, still don't know what happens to the person's soul who gets shot with the arrow. So Balsamilco in this hypothetical. And back in chapter 386, Hulkenberg was trying to figure this out, and he posed 4 possibilities. The first is that the person just dies, right? The second is that their souls swap, meaning Balsamilco's soul would go into Hulkenberg's body in this hypothetical. But remember, the person who swaps in, their body just falls unconscious and enters like a coma-like state. So Hulkenberg would be in a coma, but maybe Balsamilco's soul would be in there. The third is that the soul doesn't go anywhere. It's still in their original body. It's just in the back seat, right? With the new person's soul being able to pilot everything. And the fourth possibility is that the soul just goes entirely someplace else. Now, what's interesting is this was back in chapter 386, right after Hulkenberg discovered his ability. Since then, Hulkenberg has used his ability ability a few times. So he might know the answer to this question, but we, the readers, still don't. And another layer of crazy on top of all of this is that we know Prince Halkenburg has a letter going his way that contains all of the dirt and all of the secrets, right? Everything Saradnik has been up to, Prince Benjamin's secrets, and most importantly, the secret of Halkenburg's own birth. And I've got a whole video talking about that stuff, so you can check it out if you want. But that letter has not reached him yet, which was a specific plot point that was brought up in this chapter. They are waiting for him to wake up so they can hand it to him directly. But what if he doesn't get that information in time because he's in someone else's body? And the much more horrific potential is, what if Balsamilco's soul is in Hulkenberg's body and he does eventually wake up at some point, at which point they hand him this letter with all the secrets in it, and Balsamilco is the one to find out, not Hulkenberg. Again, there's no guarantee that that's even the situation that we're dealing with here, but the fact that it's a possibility is just so interesting. If Hulkenberg knew that his ability soul swapped, then I'm sure he wouldn't take any chances by letting anybody else pilot his body, right? But he may not know how it works still, or it may be nuanced. Like the first time he used it with his random peon that switched into one of Prince Benjamin's soldiers, his peon remained in a coma, right? But what if that's because they weren't very skilled at Nin and just didn't have the ability to like zonk out of it, right? Balsamilco is one of the strongest Nin users on this ship, presumably. So he might be powerful enough to like not be put in a coma, assuming that's how this works, right? So, and again, maybe it wasn't even Balsamilco that attacked Hulkenberg, and maybe Hulkenberg didn't even use his arrow. We don't know any of these things yet, but it's juicy. And another really interesting element at play in all of this is first Prince Benjamin's ability. His ability, which gives him the abilities of his subordinates and his soldiers when they pass away. So if it was Balsamilco and the arrow does just straight up kill you, then there's a chance that Benjamin would inherit Balsamilco's ability and yet see that Balsamilco is alive. And so he would know something is up. So it would be like this crazy, like, I know that you know that I know type of situation going on. And even if it wasn't Balsamilco and it was just one of Benjamin's other soldiers that he may inherit their ability of, there's just so much cool room for twists and subterfuge and double crosses, and I am loving this arc so much. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video and get y'all's pulse on this entire situation. What do you think that Nin rumbling was? Was it Hulkenberg using his ability? Was it against Balsamilco? Or is that kind of a misdirect and maybe something else or some other attack happened? Because would Balsamilco be that sloppy? You know, he is aware of the prince's ability, so maybe he wouldn't be dumb enough to get caught in it. We'll have to see. And there's just so many crazy possibilities, right? Like, what if Benjamin gets a hold of the letter intended for Hulkenberg, or just somebody else in general, right? There are some juicy ass secrets in there that could really just turn the whole game on its head. But in any case, let me know y'all's thoughts, and thank you so much for watching.